So, Marcus, can I ask you to give more detail about these training routines?
Sure. Yeah, because it's really important in this whole process. The thing I was talking about, the whole kind of hypnosis, mind control element, and I got a chance to look back a little bit, and although I think I said there were 40 routines, there actually are 10. It only seems like 40 because it takes so long. So I'm just going to go through each of these routines and kind of explain what you do during them. The first one is, strangely enough, called Training Routine 0. Like, they don't even start with 1. I think it's more cool. Like, it makes it more cool, I think. I don't know. Like, Training Routine 0.
Hey, the first one we called 0, okay?
Which is called confronting.
Okay.
All right. So you're going to sit with your eyes open for at times literally hours without moving or twitching. Now, the process that I did, we sat and stared at each other for a matter of, minutes, like 10, 15 minutes. We're trying not to blink. But it's recommended. It's recommended that you do this for 2 hours.
Holy fuck!
So you stare at each other and, like, you move your hand, flunk, start over.
Yeah.
Or you say something, flunk, talking, eye movement, looking away. That's non-confront. Like, you announce non-confront, start. Or you're not in the present time, like you're clearly thinking about something, flunk. And these flunks are really important, and you like, it's yelled at you, like, to cause like shock and confusion.
Sure.
And you automatically, like in kind of a robotic voice, after you flunk someone, say start, to get them back on that staring thing.
And you take turns doing this back and forth, right?
Yeah, and you do this until you do it until the coach feels like you're there. Like, so there's no real timeline or clear objective. You do it until the other person is satisfied, and then you take turns.
Right.
So,
right.
The idea is to stop thinking. Really, that's like kind of the first objective, and what it does is it creates this phenomenon of that 1,000-mile stare, which is very common to Scientologists. It's kind of that thing I was talking about earlier about all these people being very overly direct, like super smiley, never losing eye contact with you. That kind of creepiness. So, and it's interesting because you're not really being stared at, you're being stared through.
Yeah. Holy shit.
And the reason that is because you're seen as so much less than that. These people are walking around feeling like they're like superior beings because they've been fixed. They've been cured.
Yeah.
And the higher you go up this chain, the more clear you are, the more high level auditing courses you have, the more real you are, and the more human you are. Because there's a real deep belief that because of these, now the language changes a little bit from engrams to thetans, Now, Satan being like a physical, like, creature, really, that
right,
not just a quirk of memory, but like a real being that is like inside of you, that essentially is controlling you and your emotions. So this first training routine really forms the basis for nearly everything that a Scientologist does. Like, whether it's reading a book or talking to someone or solving a problem, so, like, you're trained to go into a trance by these people, like, on day one. And that's exactly what happened to me. Like, basically being conditioned to accept the suggestion, while kind of in an alpha state. And that being a normal way to learn. It's very Pavlovian in the sense, like, when you hear this code, like, you respond in this way. So it's, even though it seems really kind of like, yeah, whatever, you know, like, it's actually incredibly dangerous. And this is part of why, because I had been through this, and then it was suggested to me that I come work there, I was pretty receptive to the idea. And I didn't really understand why. Earlier I was talking about, well, sure, I'd like to do something different. I was getting kind of, you know, I don't know, tired of the old job anyway, but hanging out with a bunch of little kids. You know, I'd rather I'd rather be with the adults. So the next training routine is called Dear Alice, and the student reads dialogue from Alice in Wonderland until they get a sign from the coach to stop. You're reading snippets from Alice in Wonderland printed on a sheet of paper, and you know, you're not supposed to laugh. You're not supposed to, like, show any response. You're just supposed to read it without emotion. It's basically to eliminate, like, humor, because Alice in Wonderland is funny. You know, it's goofy. And there's you know, so you pick a really, like, silly book to read.
But it's also a book that we've all read, too. It's also a book that all children are sort of familiarized with, too, as funny and kooky. So the idea that they're making you read that right after you've gone through this sort of, like, trance state thing. Okay.
The reason behind it is because, you know, Alice in Wonderland is full of gibberish on purpose. You know, it's written that way. So the idea is to become familiar and comfortable with nonsense phrases. And
lingo.
Because it's really important that you become familiar with lingo, because so many conversations in Scientology are filled with all kinds of lingo. And and where it's in such a huge way that outside people may have no idea what you're talking about. And that's kind of also the idea. So it's this ramping up of the seemingly inconsequential so-called communication exercises that are really grooming you to become a good Scientologist. So there's that. The second or third is TR2. The third training routine is called acknowledgments, and so the coach reads a dialogue at the student, and the student must acknowledge or stop what the coach said using one of the following words. okay, good, thank you, all right, or fine. And it seems like it, has a positive benefit of the student to complete the communication cycle, in quotes. Again, it's this repetitive nature of the acknowledgement to be hypnotic. Like, for instance, like if you just say a phrase, like go ahead and like just tell me something.
Jump.
Gotcha. And then you keep doing that. Like you say something else.
Hop.
Fine.
Leap.
All right.
Skip.
Okay.
Sit.
Good. So you're doing this for like, 20 minutes. And
wow.
The idea is that it's to get the student, me, to agree to any statement. Like, I'm going to acknowledge whatever you say every time, regardless of what it is you're saying, to note that I'm buying into it. Like, yes, that's right.
Right.
And, in Scientology, it may help you get through your day without getting into like some trouble, because you better acknowledge what anyone else is saying, or there could be some ethics issues.
Right.
But it's not necessarily good out in the world when, say you're talking to like a used car salesman, for instance, like where you're just like, yes, whatever you say.
Yeah.
All right. So then there's the next exercise is it's very strange. It's training routine 2.5, where you half acknowledge. Same kind of concept, but you're not as forthright. Maybe you give them a or a uh-huh, like like it's just so that to indicate that you are being heard, but it's not a full acknowledgement that you agree really. Like it's more along the lines of just something dismissive, like whatever.
Right.
But it's an important training exercise because it's also a thought stopper, like your conversation stopper, like that thing, like rather than fully committing to what you said. Now I'm just gonna like be like, well, yeah.
Right.
Right. Training routine 3, the duplicative question. So that as a student, I'm gonna ask the coach, do birds fly? Do fish swim? And you're gonna try not to answer.
Okay.
So, and this is all about auditing. When you don't answer, I'm going to repeat the question using this phrase. I will repeat the auditing question. Do birds fly? Do fish swim? And I'm going to do this until you answer me. You may even physically try to leave. The coach might physically even try to leave the session, and I'm supposed to like stop you from leaving and put you back in your chair and repeat the same question until it's answered. So this drill is passed when I, the student, can always get my questions answered.
Right.
It's just very like super intentional. Like you are going to answer my question regardless of whether you want to or not.
Is this false empowerment?
Well, it reinforces the Scientology dogma, and it kind of points to obviously the need for more auditing, for more of this stuff. Like if I can't get you to answer, these straightforward questions, like with just my intention, then there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really interesting, and the funny thing about this is, this is just the beginning of this process, and it's already really weird.
Yeah.
Especially
weird.
From an outside perspective now. But when you're in maybe it's not so weird. Maybe it just seems like an interesting
cool thing
exercise.
to do. Yeah.
Sure.
And in this sense, and sort of like, has no intention behind it. But I can totally see how you would have absolutely no way of like turning down an offer to work there after this. I can see how like it would just be like, my head would be so fried.
Right. So now we get into like some other stuff. Like it's the same idea as the last one, where you you're asking questions, but the coach mixes the comments with like quote unquote case information, like for instance, my foot suddenly started hurting, or like I'm getting upset, let's stop. And
Okay.
me as a student, and then again as the coach, the idea is that I need to get the coach continue using like stuff like, oh, that's pretty normal, let's just continue and see what happens. I'll repeat the question, do birds fly? Like, so when I ask you birds fly, you say, hey, my leg hurts. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty normal, let's just continue. Like ignoring like any objection, any like original thought, like, because we definitely want to avoid you having any kind of
original thought,
independent thinking, like that's bad.
Yeah.
Like, we want to avoid that at all costs.
Right.
So we're done with that stuff. The next thing that we're going to be doing is basically body control. Like, I'm getting you to say things that I want you to say. Now what I want to try to do is to get you to move on my command.
Okay.
So, me as a student, in this case, I get you up and I like walk you around like a robot, like, like I'm kind of pushing you from behind, like moving your arms around. I make you change direction, like, or stop, like I'm controlling you kind of like a puppet, like walking you around and the room.
Okay, so it's the staff doing this to you first, or are you doing it to the staff first, or?
No, I'm doing it to them first.
Okay.
And you as the coach are offering a little resistance.
Right.
And what the idea is to make sure that I'm controlling you properly.
Right.
It's basically the first step in giving control of your body to someone else. And the next step is, instead of like physically controlling you, I'm going to shout at you until you comply with the instruction.
Okay.
So in part 2, I stop moving you around bodily and I just yell at you, look at that wall. Walk over to that wall. And every time you do, I say, thank you. No physical contact, though. Excuse me. It goes on to, I'm gonna try to make the ashtray stand up. I'm gonna try to make the wall walk over here. I'm gonna yell at inanimate objects to move.
Okay.
Right. And and it's about that intentionality. Like, as a coach, I'm gonna pass you when I believe that you really think that you're gonna get the the chair to walk over to the other side of the room.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And
it's gonna happen.
That's basically it. Like that first indoctrination into Scientology really is a mindfuck of epic proportions. And of course you're gonna come out of that like feeling weird. And one, I think, for like relief that you're not there anymore.
Yeah.
And you walk out into the world and like the sky's bluer, the flowers.
You could smoke a cigarette or something. Yeah.
Yes, it's definitely a real phenomenon that happens. And of course, us newbies to this world immediately correlated to what we've just been through in a positive way. Like, and plus you paid money to do this. So
of course, that's part of the trick too. That's kind of part of the trick, because that's the pledge, isn't it? That's sort of the opening hand of the trick. It's the pledge.
Definitely. Right. Now I'm like, I'm hypnotized. I'm feeling good. And apparently someone like took notice. And I learned later that when I got put into the similar role, that it's not about success or failure. It's just the fact that I paid money to do this, so therefore I'm already susceptible to more suggestion, like more money, more ideas that I can throw at you. That there's a term in Scientology. It's actually called body routing. Like I'm going to get this body to that place. Like I'm going to get, like, you're not even a person anymore. You're just a body. I'm going to move that body to over here. Like I'm going to take this person out of this classroom, out of this seminar, and put them on staff as a janitor or whatever, and they're going to love it. Plus, I'm not having to pay money anymore, because now I'm actually working for the church, so I'm getting staff services that other people have to pay for. So, lucky me.
So what are you doing there?
Now, initially, it was really just a bunch of sitting at a desk and doing paperwork, or like filing, normal office stuff. And then like within a couple of months, I really kind of came into my own as more of like a staff recruiter, where I would watch people like in these courses, and if they were doing well or into it, and there was room on staff, for instance, and it's weird because there was always like room on staff for somebody to do something, whether it was like, mowing the lawn or emptying the trash, because there was nobody there that wasn't a Scientologist. There were no like outsiders allowed. So and even if there was no real position, it was always a good idea to get people like in line, because chances are that some people weren't going to make the cut anyway, and they were going to, in Scientology terminology, blow or leave.
Right.
So I developed a little crew of like my minions, you know, and we'd go around and memorize the org chart, right? Like we do like these training routines where we'd stand in front of the big organizational chart on the wall and memorize it by rote. Like, this is like, you need to know who's where and what they do.
Right.
And, you know, sometimes that took hours. There was also, a lot of it was kind of becoming like certified, where there was a lot of reading. And this kind of goes back to the originations of the first job in the school, where you'd be given a bunch of coursework to read, and then you'd have to clear those words you didn't understand by writing them out in definition, and that would also take hours and hours and hours. And
so, how many hours a day were you reading then?
2, 3, 4 hours a day
Okay.
Sometimes more. Now, it should be understood that because it's a church, nobody was really an employee. Like, everybody's a volunteer. And and there's no minimum wage. There's no real laws regarding how much anyone has to get for a certain amount of work, because you're not really working. You're just there as a member of a church.
But you were getting paid for this job, no?
I was getting paid for it, but my pay was contingent on several graphs that were on the wall that marked my progress through the day and the week and the month. Like, if I didn't get a particular task done in the right way or at the right time, I would have to indicate that on the chart on the wall.
Right.
Like, and you definitely don't want a flat line, or certainly not a line going down on your chart.
Yeah.
You want all these arrows pointing up.
Right.
And the better you do, the more money you get. So there's that incentive, like, to toe the line, do all of your, duties, like, in the right manner, because it affects, like, how much money you make, for sure.
Sure.
Which is unlike most jobs, because you're not selling anything. It's not like a commission thing. It's a performance of your job directly determines how much money you might get.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's another method, at least as far as the staff side of things that really traps people into the environment, because, some weeks were quite good and some were not.
But also there must be like corruption within that system. I mean, it sounds like the level system in the TPI. It sounds familiar. You've got this thing up on the wall, and like the person checking you off to see whether or not you did your job correctly. Could they not very well be friends with like one of the people working there and then give them good marks the whole time?
Well, the difference is that this is all really self-administered. Like,
God.
So as far as corruption is concerned, that's all on you. Like, you're your own watchdog. And so, I mean, that's better, but that might give you an indication of how deeply indoctrinated these people are. Because if you don't, if you cheat, or if you you're going to get accused of murder. You're going to, like literally, you're going to get accused of real crimes within this organization that don't really mean anything. But because of that, you're going to have to sit for more hours, like all day, reading Scientology ethics policies and writing essays and then being grilled on your past life crimes, even like so it gets really weird, and so they can kind of go. Now the corruption occurs at the higher levels where people are less accountable,
right,
and have kind of broken free of the structure in a little bit and kind of stand above it. They're still into it, but they control it.
Right.
And those are people frankly, Tom Cruise, who really is kind of like the number 2 guy in the whole organization. Like that wasn't always the case, but he became buddies with the number 1 guy, a guy named David Miscavige.
Yeah.
Who took over when Hubbard died in 1986.
Does Cruise make money from the church?
I don't know. I would kind of doubt it.
Okay.
He probably gives money to the church, frankly.
Yeah. Sorry, my fault.
No. That's a good question. Now, some of these sessions cost thousands of dollars an hour. Like,
sure.
I think the going rate for this first routine is like $250. When I took part in it, it was less, but that's just inflation.
Yeah.
But some of the higher level, like psychotherapy style sessions, can cost up to $5,000 an hour. So there's still a lot of money